Warren Buffett. The name itself is basically a synonym for, well, for money. Lots of it. They call him the Oracle of Omaha because of his incredible track record as an investor. But the real story here, how he actually built his empire, the way he lives his life, and what his grand plan is for all that wealth, well, it's a whole lot more surprising than you might think.
All right, just take a second to look at this, because this right here is the whole puzzle of Warren Buffett in a nutshell. On one side, you have a net worth of over $160 billion. I mean, that's a number that's so huge it's hard to even wrap your head around it. And on the other side, the house he bought way back in 1958 for about 31 grand. And get this, he still lives there. Today. A multi-billionaire in the same modest house for over 60 years.
So, what gives? How does a man with that kind of staggering wealth lead such a famously simple life? That's really the big question we're going to dig into. And to understand the man, you first have to understand the secret financial engine that powered his entire journey.
Now, most people just assume Buffett got rich by being a brilliant stock picker. And don't get me wrong, he absolutely is. But that's only half the story. The real secret sauce is where he got the capital, the money, to make all those legendary investments. And it came from a place most of us would never even think to look, the insurance business.
It all comes down to this one key concept: insurance float. Think about it like this. You pay your insurance premiums every single month, right? But the insurance company doesn't have to pay anything out until you actually file a claim. And that could be months, years, or maybe even never. All that cash they collect from millions of people that they just hold on to in the meantime, that giant pool of money is the float.
And this slide right here shows you the insane power of that engine. Just look at the growth of Berkshire Hathaway's float. It goes from a decent 39 million back in 1970 to over 84 times billion today. You have to understand, this isn't just a pile of cash sitting in a bank. It's a massive, constantly refreshing river of capital that Buffett could invest for his company's benefit.
Buffett himself summed it up perfectly. If his insurance companies are run well, meaning they take in more money in premiums than they pay out in claims, then that entire $84 billion float is basically an interest-free loan. Actually, it's even better than that. It's like getting paid to borrow billions and billions of dollars. This was his absolute masterstroke.
So, okay, having access to this incredible money machine is one thing, but you still have to know how to use it. And that's where Buffett's famously simple yet really profound investment philosophy comes into play. Let's break down the rules that guided his every move.
Here they are, the two rules he's famous for. Rule number 1, never lose money. And rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. I know it sounds almost a little too simple, right? But the idea behind it is incredibly important. Protecting your capital is everything. He cares way more about not losing money than he does about making some spectacular gain, and that discipline has saved him from countless market bubbles and crashes.
So how does he actually follow rule number 1? Well, he sticks to the core ideas of value investing, which he learned from his mentor, Benjamin Graham. For him, it's simple. He doesn't buy stocks, he buys pieces of actual businesses that he understands. He waits for the market to get scared so he can buy things at a discount. That's what he calls a margin of safety. And when he finally buys a company he likes, his plan is to hold on to it, well, forever.
Now let's see how this whole thing, the financial engine and the philosophy, actually came together in the real world. The story of his main company, Berkshire Hathaway, is the perfect example. And believe it or not, it all started with what he considered a really bad mistake. It's kind of hard to imagine now, but the company we know as this global financial powerhouse actually started out as a failing textile mill in New England. Buffett started buying up its stock in the 1960s for one reason and one reason only. It was super cheap by his calculations.
But here's the twist. The business itself was a total dud. It was in a dying industry. Buffett was basically stuck. He even went on to say that buying into the textile business was his single worst investment. But what he did next is what really separates the legends from everybody else.
See, instead of just selling it and taking the loss, he transformed it. He used Berkshire Hathaway as a shell company, pivoting away from the dying textile business and straight into insurance. He started buying up insurance companies, harnessing their float, and then using all that float to buy other great businesses. That worst trade he ever made? It became the foundation of his entire empire.
So, we've seen the secret engine and the philosophy that he used to build one of the world's greatest fortunes. But that brings us to the final and maybe the most important chapter of his story. What in the world he plans to do with it all?
This one number is just staggering. 99%. Warren Buffett has pledged to give away over 99% of his wealth. Not half, not most of it, nearly all of it. He famously said he wants to leave his kids enough money so that they would feel they could do anything, but not so much that they could do nothing.
And he didn't just stop with his own fortune. He teamed up with Bill and Melinda Gates to create the Giving Pledge, which is basically a public promise made by the world's wealthiest people to give away at least half of their fortunes. It's a massive effort to fundamentally change philanthropy on a global scale.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question to think about. For decades, we've known him as the oracle, the master investor who built an empire from a failing textile company. But when all is said and done, years from now, will his ultimate legacy be defined by the billions he made, or by the simple fact that he gave nearly all of it back? That right there is the final piece of the Buffett paradox.